Welcome back, everybody. I hope that you are sustained and nourished by not only the discussions this morning, but also by the light bites that we had over lunch. I've loved every one of the panels that we've had so far today, incredibly rich speakers. I'm particularly looking forward to this one this afternoon. And thank you for staying with us and preparing and joining us for this. Climate change and the role of innovation. I'm tempted to say that there is no pathway to mitigating as well as adapting to climate change without innovation. And in their own way, all four of our panelists, I would argue, are at the cutting edge of this innovation challenge that we face. Eva Karolewska, regional manager, senior regional manager at EIT Food, EIT Innovation and Technology Food. This is a fantastic organization. Many of you in the room will know who they are, but they are playing a hugely important role, I think, in driving change and innovation at landscape level. And so, Eva, really looking forward to hearing from you. Krzysztof Stankowski at PepsiCo, a company that has done more than most, I would say, in putting itself out there and committing to supporting the transition in the food and agriculture system. It's great to have you with us, and really looking forward to hearing what you've got to say. And of course, if I fail to pronounce your name correctly, you are more than willing to I sincerely doubt that, but you're too kind. I think the other interesting thing for me and for the forum in particular has been the interest from perhaps outside of the value chain, traditional value chain of companies getting involved and seeing agriculture as potentially a climate solution and bringing their technology to bear. So it was beyond celebration when Microsoft joined the forum, and Petra Cicek, Sustainability Commercial Lead for Central and South Europe at Microsoft, just delighted to have you with us and to tell us about what you're doing to help enable this transition. And how could I ever forget one of the forum's oldest friends, Mateusz Czesnoka. You know, although we've known each other for many years, as you can see, my tongue doesn't quite wrap around it. Emma will tell you that I've spent hours last night again practicing that, but I apologize. Mateusz, as I say, past forum speaker, you're just back from Baku for COP29. You've said a number of times before that you live your call to action through your two businesses, bridging agriculture and climate policy. So again, beyond thrilled that you're able to join us here today. So to all of you, very warm welcome. We've got about 45, 50 minutes to go through this. I'm going to give each of you the floor for 4 to 5 minutes just to set out what you think the challenges are in bringing innovation to bear on climate change, and the role that agriculture can play. And then we'll get into a Q&A, both with myself and also with you in the audience. So I think probably the best way to do is to go right to left, and maybe start with you, Petra, as someone, as I say, a company that you might not have assumed would be in agriculture, and yet very deeply involved. And you can tell us what you're up to and how you see the challenge. Petra.
Thanks, Mark, for kind introduction. Thank you very much for warm welcome. Looking forward to the conversation today. As you can probably hear from my English, I'm not from Poland, not from UK. So joining you today here from Croatia. Working in Microsoft, and I work every day with customers from different industries, segments, size, across the Europe, primarily on advancing on sustainability outcomes, sustainability journey, and it's not only about the sustainability, but actually it's about how to increase the profitability, because it's basically the two sides of the same coin. We cannot kind of distinct those two from another, and we saw this kind of during the course of the conversation today. So I mean, as you correctly said, Mark, I mean, Microsoft we are not agricultural specialist, but what we bring to the table is basically the most innovative and advanced tools and technologies that can really bring a lot of benefits, advancement, innovation, acceleration to agriculture industry. I mean, we believe that agriculture as in the industry has just scratched the surface of leveraging those kind of technologies, and I mean here the digitalization, the data, and then AI type of technologies in really driving the sustainable transformation and achieving and I would say overcoming a lot of obstacles that we see, but also addressing some of those key challenges. Our mission is what we say to enable and accelerate a data-driven agriculture, because on one hand side you cannot really act unless you measure. So we bring the type of technologies that can help connect many different data sources, data systems happening at the farms, satellite data, weather forecast data. I mean, we have products and solutions that can really help to collect, automate, and streamline all of this data and put this data at the fingertip of large or small farmers. But then there is also the role, you probably witnessed this is the world that I live every day about, explosion and democratization of AI tools and technologies. So we work also with our partner, Microsoft Partner Ecosystem, and bring to the farmers different kind of solutions, and one of those companies I work closely with is coming also from Croatia, and they actually built something that is called an AI assistant for a farmer. So and this is a technology that is already in use. I mean, I was just chatting in the break. Actually, the country of Barbados, the government of the country of Barbados has implemented this kind of AI assistant for the farmers at the national level to really kind of break down some of the barriers, to bring the education, to bring the tips. And do you know how is this delivered to the farmers? Do you know what is the most common agricultural tool today that is being used? A phone, exactly. So, so basically, every farmer has on their phone, in their address book, an AI assistant to help with addressing many different kind of questions, challenges, and to really enable this collaboration.
Petra, just before we move on, as you've come into this space, as you started to work with farmers, and I know this is going to be difficult to answer without making a generalization, what do you think is the biggest blocker to the adoption of the technology that a company like yours provides?
So adoption of any technology in any industry, and especially in farming, I mean, in agriculture, because, we see a lot of farms being owned by maybe a little bit older population, and people not being using not working in the office every day, or using a lot of technologies, I would say, on an everyday basis. I think it's how to make this technology really accessible, easy to use, and to kind of focus the farmers to do agriculture, to their farming, not to spend time on trying to kind of, demystify, some new technologies. So we need to make sure that, the ease of use and the benefits and the fast benefits that they can actually receive from the usage of technology. This is I would say one of the biggest benefits. Also, I mean, what we also see is that we need to make sure that the right policies also support that this digitalization. And bringing, I would say, the digitalization, that the knowledge around the technologies is equally accessible to the people, living in rural areas, people living in the cities, people, I would say, younger population, older population. So it's, I would say, the democratization of this access to the technology. And also when we step outside of the European Union, I mean, specifically in Africa, where, there is additional layer of challenge when it comes to access to the digital tools, technologies that is depending very much on the, availability of the internet, of the broadband and things like this. So these are some of the the core, I would say, challenges, but also the core initiatives where we as an organization invest our time, our money, our efforts as well.
So if technology, Eva, is beginning to drive some of what we're seeing in terms of the transformation, bring it back to us now at the landscape level and talk to us a little bit about what EIT is trying to drive there, not just with the kind of technology that Microsoft brings, but the whole mix of innovation tools.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the invitation. First of all, who has ever heard about EIT Food? Okay, so you will hear something probably new as well, but maybe I will explain quickly who we are and what is our goal. So EIT Food is an organization backed by European Commission. We are part of the family of European Institute of Innovation and Technology, but each of us is independent and we have all different goals. We as EIT Food were set up to support the transformation of food systems so that the healthy and sustainable diet is available for all. So it sounds kind of simple, but we all know that it's super difficult. And our mission is to do this via accelerating innovation and putting the innovation in the core of all our activities. So we are supporting innovators at different stages. We have a very great portfolio of startups with different solutions. A lot of them, of course, are addressing issues in the agri-food sector. Some of them also going, further in the value chain and going up to the consumer. We are also focused on education at the same time, working with policymakers, doing a lot of public affairs activities and things like this, because we believe that we need to really do a lot to bring about the change to the society. So the new exciting thing that I would like to share with you today is regenerative innovation portfolio and regenerative agricultural landscapes. It's a kind of simple idea that we are trying to bring to life in Europe. A lot of different companies are already working on regenerative agriculture schemes. We heard before from Sebastian about the experience in Cargill, but many other companies are working on programs inside the companies. What we are changing a little bit or bringing here to bringing a new concept to life is looking from the perspective of the landscape as a region. And we are inviting to the table 2, 3, 4 different companies, off-takers or food producers, so that we are investing together in the transition into regenerative agriculture. So in a nutshell, we are moving from running small pilot projects or individual projects that have been run for many years in different parts of the world. And we are working towards setting up universal standards, testing different solutions together. The biggest benefit for companies to join is basically that we are de-risking the transition by investing public funding. And also, at the same time, of course, the transition is cheaper as well because we are sharing the cost of the transition. The whole landscape is not only us, companies, and World Economic Forum and Food Valley that are partners of this project, but also we are engaging other stakeholders from the region. So, for example, local authorities, water providers, other stakeholders that might have benefits, but who can also support building ecosystem services, so that the transition will be on a longer scale sustainable when it comes to the financial aspect of the transition. So we don't want to put the public money forever in those projects. They should run by themselves when the public money is over. Also, the financial institutions will be key as well in the transition. And this is actually, I wanted to refer to your previous question about the challenges. So this is what I see personally as a challenge here. There is money in the finance sector. Finance sector is very interested in joining the transition and backing up the transition with funding, but the funds are not necessarily yet fitting the transition. So the risk is too high, or the transition processes are too long. The ROI is coming, longer in the future. So I think this is the big big issue that we need to solve, how to bring those financial institutions with new innovative financial mechanisms as well to the table so that we can work together. But also, if I can use the stage now in my 5 minutes, I would like to invite you as well to have a look at the regenerative innovation portfolio, because we are very happy to invite farmers, landowners, financial institutions, food producers, off-takers, also producers of inputs, because we know that basically we have to do this all together, and only in this way it can be successful.
I think you know what you talked about there, and in the need to do it all together. I think that's
Yes.
one of the powers that I've certainly heard and understood in terms of what you're trying to do in EIT Food. I think that the point on the financial institutions,
Yes.
this is where the collaboration with Microsoft in terms of
Yes.
the data that's been generated
Yes.
that can help model the future. I think one of the challenges that the financial institutions have had is not being able to valorize the sustainability impact, and yet with the data, I think we
Yes.
can start to get there.
Yes, so what was discussed as well before, the data, the lack of data, and the lack of, like sound information about business models, the benefits for farmers. This is also something I think that it's a little bit, making the transition more difficult. So I think as far as we'll have like a lot of data available, and this data will be really sound, it will be very reliable and trustworthy, then it will be much easier as well. And of course, we put the farmer in the core of the whole transition. So the data that will be inputted on the farm, it will be translated as well, and the farmer will receive information about the data, So basically, what one or another practice is helping him to achieve. Hopefully, we'll be able to build scenarios as well for the farmers, so they will see basically what works better, what works better, what works worse in terms of the soil health, but also in terms of the financial gains for the farmer.
Absolutely, very good. We're going to move on to you, Christoph. As I said on the kind of way in, I mean, PepsiCo and what you tried to do has been really out in front of some of this. You've really put your money where your mouth is. You've engaged with your farmers. Tell us about the progress that you think you've made. What gives you cause for optimism that this really can work? But also, from your point of view as well, some of the challenges still faced.
Hi everyone. Maybe I will start from the point that when you hear the name of our company, meaning PepsiCo, first thing that comes to mind is beverages. But in fact, 50% of our business is related with snacks, and that snacks are being made from, at least in Poland, from potatoes that we are contracting on the market. And we have that special opportunity to work with the growers across the whole world. And we do have our internal system monitoring every action that is being done on farms. So we have that opportunity to analyze really big amounts of data. And based on that, we can compare different crop conditions in each sectors, and based on that analysis, we can provide proper support for the growers. Since many years, we have established and implemented a sustainable farming program, which we treat as a massive success for us, because at the beginning it's always like at the beginning there is really it's hard to convince growers to do something different, but we are doing that since many years, and at the moment we are cooperating with really open-minded farmers. I know that this is not the case in other sectors, but in our case, it's much easier for us to propose innovations and new technologies to the growers, they trust us because, at least in Poland, we are cooperating with farmers since 31 years. So they trust us, and when they know when we are proposing something which is new and in many cases a little bit more expensive, they know that in long term they will see the benefit of the proposal. So 2 years ago, we've started to implement regenerative agriculture practices in Poland, but not only, also in Europe. And for us and for farmers, the biggest challenge, I think, is time. Because when you see how fast the climate is changing and the plans are being constructed for many, many years, though those are long-term plans, but we have to run really fast to adapt to the climate change. So there is no much time left to make some changes. And thankfully, in our case, the growers are aware of that, and the willingness to implement practices that we are proposing is really, I must say, extremely high. Yeah.
Good. So, a question I'm going to put to you, I hope you don't regard as unfair, because I'd be asking you to answer as PepsiCo, but also on behalf of other value chain companies. One of the questions we hear back from farmers is this real from a value chain company? Is it corporate responsibility that will be there for 2 to 3 years and then maybe fade away, and they will still be left with the cost of the transition? So I know PepsiCo well enough to guess at the answer. I don't think it is corporate responsibility, but nevertheless, it is a question that's on the table. Can you just share with us how you think about that from your personal and indeed your company perspective?
Mm-hmm. So in general, yes. The growers may be afraid that in a couple of years we will just skip the program, and we will leave them with the higher cost of, in example, potato cultivation, but we will not. At the moment, we've started cooperation with a company, with fertilizers producers called Yara. They have zero emissions fertilizers. So, and this is something which is extremely expensive. How we are convincing growers to use those fertilizers, we are covering the difference between conventional fertilizers and Yara fertilizers. And as long as Yara fertilizers will be more expensive than conventional fertilization, we will cover that cost, because we know that we are on one and only path, and we cannot change that. We have to stay on that path, because this is not only corporate responsibility. I think this is a responsibility that relates to all of us. And what we see, that we see a lack of cooperation between all involved parties. I mean, growers have to do their work, we have to do our work, but also we see lack of support from authorities. There is no proper legislation how to do it. The growers, they do not have, from that perspective, they do not have any guidance how to adjust to the changing conditions. This is something that we see that needs to be changed.
I really appreciate the candidness and the honesty of the answer there. There's a lot to come back to. I'm going to turn it over to Mateusz. I mean, you're a farmer, Mateusz. You're involved in these debates. You've been an honest challenger, I think, of some of the things that are working, some of the things that aren't working. Give us your perspective, both in terms of what you've heard and where you think we are on unlocking agriculture as a climate solution.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Thank you for this important space and coming with FAA back to Poland, and for having me. I would like to respond to the question by sharing some of the reflections that I would like to share with you all when I've been reflecting on the session and the flow, and then we'll get to deeper discussion where it's needed, where it's flowing. And the reflections are that I always like to start by sharing the story, the life experience that I as a farmer have. And our farm's experience and knowing other farms in the area and in Poland is that we live through numerous transitions. We lived through the transitions before entering the European Union, which were mainly profit-driven. We were chasing more profits. We were trying to be more profitable. And then with the entry to the European Union being beneficiaries of the CAP, CEP, we could once again transform our business model in our case in a way that also lowered the risk of production. So we didn't aim at higher production in this or other shape, but we focus on being more profitable in a risk-adjusted way, which meant transitioning from intense tillage to lower intensity tillage at first, and then completely changing land use from arable land to permanent grasslands, in which we are in right now. That was made possible by many reasons, but the financial reason that made that possible was the CAP and the programs that were available. So we've been doing that for years, right? And of course, CAP in Polish reality is 2004 till now, and probably for some more years at least. And it happened in our particular case, and this is where our paths are crossing in 2020, that this story, the story of transition that we lived and was and continues to be our story, is needed somewhere. The place where it was needed back at the time was COP26, which happened in the UK, in Glasgow, the climate conference, and also UN Food System Summit, United Nations Food System Summit, that from 2019 to 2020 discussed food systems across the world in a really magnificent effort, and hosted a lot of the spaces of conversation that I hear in this conference and many, many others saying, hey, we desperately need those spaces to talk about the future of food systems. We've been there, and I've been there in 2019, 2020, so it seems like, hey, we kind of had those spaces. But anyway, I've been invited to those two processes, and then an opportunity and also a need, a challenge of how do you build a bridge between climate and agriculture, food systems more broadly. What is the feasible path? You don't have an hour to explain that. You have 30 seconds in some statements. So how do you do that? And you need a language, which brings me to innovation, right? And the language that was very innovative back then, now everybody uses this word, is regenerative agriculture. But then when you get to the core of it, and that was also said today as well, is really soil health, which also brings me to think about carbon as a language. Every single farmer of the world is a carbon farmer, I believe, because whether you like it or not, your farm is embedded in an ecosystem that has carbon cycle in that ecosystem, and you are both affected by that as well as contributing. The question is, once you know, are you a good carbon farmer or not? And we can go into the specifics. But anyway, that's 2021. We are doing the farm as we are doing continuously to that, and then opportunity opens up and also a need emerges for those stories to be presented in those processes, trying to build a bridge between them, which continues since. And now, once again, zooming into the role of innovation that was said today, but I would like to underline that after Kerstin, who's a colleague from the EU Soil Mission, that of course we fully promote, and it's really a wonderful resource that we have as European citizens to benefit from that, also financially. There are different natures of innovation. One very important, where I think we need the most attention and we should be starting there, is the social innovation bit. Even when I've been reflecting on the panel, I've been thinking, oh, of course I am expected to talk about technology. But actually, no, nobody asked me to talk about technology. We are talking about innovation, right? So the importance of social innovation within innovation as something that unlocks true innovation, which is, of course, rooted in a trust. And then you will hear me saying something that many of you who are friends and we know each other, and some of you are actually neighbors to our farm, said many times, and I will continue saying that probably till I die. That social innovation and trust starts with visiting a farmer. And that is the call that emerged when I've been listening to very important people and working with them at the COP26. Hey, actually, what really is important, and we should be starting there, is why don't we take you on a farm so that you can talk with an agricultural farmer, and that's it. And so, once again, because I'm issuing this call from stage, it's good to leave it, right? So since the first COP that we attended in 2021, COP26, then we've been to 2 other COPs, COP28 in Dubai last year and 29 in Azerbaijan just now, that completed, and from my perspective was successful, and we did tremendous work as farmers group there from all across the world, including Europe, but not only. And we did that with the group that I came with, Farmo Francesco, European Carbon Farmers. We visited farmers in those spaces, and we will continue doing that forever. So that's my invitation, to visit the farmer, think about innovation from a social point of view, starting with building bridges, and treat those important for us once you identify them. Be very strategic how you want to engage. Remember, they are a process. They are not a meeting that just happens and that's it. No, there's a process, and the meeting is part of the process. And once again, another concrete example and reality of our work is, after knowing the process, we said, hey, it would be really useful to bring a group of people who are kind of interested but don't really understand the process, to run them through a model of the COP. So we did that as Farmo Francesco and European Carbon Farmers. And we brought 15 people from across the world, literally from across the world, to Warsaw for 3 nights, 2 full days of programming. Former high-level champion on climate action from the Republic of Poland, Tomasz Hruszczov, joined us to share his knowledge. We did the model on 1 day, and then on the 2nd day, we went to the farm next to Warsaw that I invite you to, and some of you were on that farm already, to actually live what we are talking. And then that's the final thing I will say, but I am looking for it. I lost it. Sorry. And then we developed a message that we brought to the COP in Baku. So very simple, like that's how I think about innovation. It starts with building a relationship and not aiming for something that we cannot quite comprehend, but just building a relationship and taking it from there, identifying where you put that next.
It's interesting what you've said there, Mateusz. And I'll draw on my own experience in the US. This point about social innovation, the language. The language that we use to engage the private sector in funding is dressed up around climate, as ESG, it's meeting corporate responsibilities. And it's a language that doesn't necessarily play well in rural America at all, as many of you will know. Now, I also heard last week a really interesting phrase that if, and forgive me, it wasn't PepsiCo that was mentioned, if PepsiCo is prepared to write the check, we in rural America would be stupid not to cash it. And I thought that was quite an interesting way of looking at it, but it still doesn't get us beyond the transactional element of it. To both of you, actually to all 4 of you, how much progress do you think we are making in building that common language that the farmer and the corporate sector can begin to align on what we're actually trying to achieve? I will start with you, Mateusz, because you raised it, and I'd like to work down the panel.
So my reflection is, we still have a long way to go, but trying to be a positive that I am optimist that I am naturally not, but my wife, who is from Argentina, she naturally is an optimist, so I will leave that. We walked tremendously long way, especially, as I just shared before, I came into that space, the policy making, advocacy, from a farm during COVID times when things were looking really, really questioned. And that's when really food and agriculture as part of the solution, or as key part of the solution for climate, for biodiversity, for desertification, for social transformation, was starting to emerge. 3 years later, we have call to action on food systems launched by high-level champions on climate action that everybody can sign, by the way. We have EU Soil Mission Manifesto that, once again, everybody can sign, and thank you to those who signed it already. We have a lot. So we walked really, really long way, but we are by no means there. It's still very fragile, so I wouldn't like to just celebrate the victory. There's a lot to celebrate, but we have to continue doing that tomorrow morning and onwards, because otherwise the success is not guaranteed.
Christoph.
Yeah, when it comes to the road distance that we already made with our growers, I must say, I can say it only in my name and in PepsiCo and company name, that as I mentioned before, we are cooperating with the growers for many, many years, and the base of our cooperation is trust and proper relationships, because this is everything starts with proper relationship. When the grower is trusting company, the cooperation looks very well and it's promising for the future. So from my perspective, I do not see any obstacles that may appear in the coming future in terms of convincing growers to adjust their farm management to the changing environment. But when we are asking our growers to do something, to change their way of working on farm, this is not that, we are taking the list of practices and saying, guys, from October 25th, you will do this, 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 and that, otherwise you're out. No, we are cooperating with the growers, asking them what's possible in Polish conditions, what's not possible, what will be possible in, 5 years. And all these things are being supported by data analysis. So we are gathering the data, doing analysis. We have some proper outcomes and suggestions to the growers. And based on all of this, we are making decisions what to do in the future.
Eva, same question to you then. From
Yes.
what you've seen at the landscape level and the projects that you're running.
I think the important point is also that we don't build the landscapes from the scratch. We've been working already on regenerative agriculture projects with farmers, with advisors for many years. So we've had like more than 100 farmers in Central Eastern Europe in the transition with the one-to-one advisory and soil sampling and so on. We had like training for like, maybe around 1,000 farmers and so on. So this is not like that we are coming with this idea, and like building something what we think might fit, but it's based on the feedback and dialogue with those who took part in our activities before as well. And also it's of course feedback from the farmers. It's involving farmers in the design basically of the program, that it makes sense for them and it's really beneficial. You also have to know that you're basically now competing between all those programs, between the carbon schemes and so on. So, you're coming to the market where farmers know already what you are talking about as well. So you need to come with something attractive. And also, engaging, I think, all those stakeholders from around. So basically, advisors are key as well for this, I think. And also associations of farmers or associations of producers, for example, so that, everyone knows what we are trying to do and trying to get everyone on board and get engaged in this transition as well. But dialogue, feedback, and communication going both ways is key, for sure.
So it strikes me, Petra, that your company could actually play quite an important role in bridging this I don't want to say a divide, but helping to build a common language, because your data is working for the corporations, but it's obviously also working from the farmers. So do you see a role for Microsoft in helping this social innovation that Mateusz talks about?
Of course, and I think that, we tackle a little bit of this, but, what we are describing here is we're talking about the concepts of the change management, the proper stakeholders, start with why, what are the benefits, including, everybody to be part of the solution, not part of the problem, and kind of designing the whole approach together. And I think, something that is also, quite fair to speak out is that, failing in some projects is also a possible outcome. And then, it's not a failure. It's a kind of just a step to the to the successful outcome. So I think that's also important lessons learned. But yeah, I mean, I think we should think about this as a circular economy approach in terms of we need this kind of data-driven process established across all of the stakeholders, and it's also the logistics companies, logistics organizations. It's also the retailers. It's also the consumers at the end, because I think that consumers are going to also play a key and important role. And I believe that all of us who are here, we are already in that advanced stage, but thinking about and knowing the topic. But I think this kind of transformation of the consumers, of the next generation of young consumers is going to also drive that change. And as I said, I think we work also with banks. We work with big retailer companies. I mean, how they think about involving suppliers, and in most cases are the clients. The banks have basically farmers as a clients, and also big retailers, big kind of producing companies, like they have farmers as their suppliers. I mean, they are all already top of the priority for the I would say transformation of such companies. So yeah, I mean, from technology perspective, I mean, technology is available. What we need to, I would say, make it work is that we all apply this systemic thinking into that approach, and that we bring, I would say, that circularity way of thinking into kind of collaboration and working together.
Can I just add
Of course.
one thing? I also noticed, actually, because I wanted to touch upon one thing that we discussed a little bit earlier. So basically, I've noticed as well a transformation inside the companies, because before it was a discussion with maybe CSR teams first, then sustainability teams, and now all teams are on board when it comes to designing landscapes or regenerative agriculture programs inside companies. So I think it's a big shift, that this is not something like just words or marketing or but this is something that needs to go inside the core activities of the company as well, where procurement is engaged, where sourcers are engaged, and so on. So I think this is a very, very positive transformation that I've observed within the last years as well.
To just build and reinforce on that, and Krzysztof, do comment on this if you disagree. I think one of the most encouraging things that we've seen over the last 18 months to 2 years or so is sustainability teams in their companies working with procurement, exactly as you said. And when you think about it, for those of you that know and have been engaged with value chain companies, this is quite a shift for procurement departments, because in many ways, we're asking them to do something that they've been trained to do the absolute opposite: source as flexibly as possible, as cheaply as possible, in order to be able to, I'm exaggerating slightly for effect, but companies, and I hope you're going to agree with this, like yours, I think have begun that journey of integrating the two. And that has been the big step forward I think I've seen over the last 18 months. And now I'm going to ask you to disagree with me.
I will not. From PepsiCo perspective, when you have, in case of any other company, when you have procurement department and sustainability department fighting with each other, you have to join them and call them agro department. And I have that opportunity to work in an agro department, and we, as a sector agro team, we do understand both sides, both sustainability and procurement, and we are doing, I think, the right thing for the company, but also for the growers. That's why I cannot disagree with you.
It's always nice to be agreed with, but I didn't want to impose my view on you if you had a different view. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a couple of minutes remaining. We have a fantastic panelists here. If there are questions, both on what they've said, but also what you'd like them to answer from other panel sessions that we've had this morning, please do put your hands up. Otherwise, I have a concluding question for all of them. to Yannick.
Thank you very much. Very nice talks. I have a question for Christoph at PepsiCo. Very interested to
I knew it.
understand. Sorry,
I knew it.
you knew it. It's good. Now, I'm curious to understand how you engage with farmers. We know there's in some companies a gap between the corporate and the farming world.
Yeah.
So very interested into that. And how do you incentivize farmers so that they are actually willing to move in the direction you intend to?
In terms of Polish farmers, but not only, it's a funny story because when we first started to discuss with them about regenerative agriculture, we found out that since many years they are already doing it. They are already they had implemented the regenerative agricultural practices, but there is a gap between one particular farmer and other farmers. So how we are trying to improve awareness and incentivize them to put how to say it, maybe in other words, we have established model farms. So we have chosen 3 or 4 farms in Poland that are implementing all of our regenerative agriculture, regenerative practices. And after each season, we are inviting all other growers to that particular farms. And, you know, because when I'm discussing with them, I'm just a guy from the office. I have my own Excel spreadsheets, and everything fits in the table. So they are looking at me like that. But when somebody with experience and it's his own farm is explaining what he did in the past couple of seasons, how it changed his, I don't know, yields, incomes, etc. I think that's the best way to convince other growers to change their ways of working.
Any other questions from our audience? Yes.
So I'm still Caroline de Meus, farmer in Belgium. Do you have an idea how many hectares are already regenerative culture in Poland or in Europe as well?
Great question.
There are, thank you for the question. As Yannick would know, there are many ways of tackling the question. One way is to say, hey, okay, so many hectares are under eco-schemes of the CAP. My way of answering that question is, I estimate the number to be less than 30%, because when you look especially at outcome-based regeneration, our soil is losing carbon on average. You drive from Warsaw to Poznań or from Gdańsk to Poznań in May, June, and you have sand on the road. So on average, when it comes to agriculture in Poland and farm-based regeneration, on average, we are not at the point of regeneration, and we are not going in that direction on average. Maybe other panelists will have different numbers or see that differently, but that is my personal assessment. I wish it was different, but it is like that. And then the final point that comes to mind, connected with the social innovation point of view approach that I've been bringing to the table in this session. Yes, the way of tackling that is to say, hey, you have to plant cover crop or you have to stop plowing, whatever. That will not stick once either the stick or the carrot is removed. So we need bigger or more fundamental approach of understanding why you should be transforming, and probably the way to do that successfully, which is what we do with European carbon farmers, is similarly to what Krzysztof was saying. Hey, actually, you are doing some of that or big part of that, but there is something missing to take you from doing some of that to doing more or maybe less, but in a holistic system that actually works and delivers results. Respecting that we are talking with businesses, that sometimes or often when they are not changing, it's not because they don't want to, but they cannot. That's why I mentioned in our own farm transition story that we had a blessed opportunity in 2004 to completely transform, which we didn't have otherwise. And we did that. We didn't really know what we are doing back then, but looking back and learning the language, now we can talk about it.
Final call for questions. Okay, then I'm going to pose a question to all four of you, which is going to try and sum up everything that we've heard over the course of today. And it's built off something that you said, Petra, a few moments ago. We have all the ingredients. We've heard about policy today. We've heard about the innovation that is taking place in the private sector and indeed the public sector. We've heard about the finance. We've heard about the willingness of farmers to go on the journey. We've even talked about the innovation and social dialogue. All of these different elements are perhaps operating in silos. We're not yet perhaps thinking systemically. So what do we need to do to accelerate all of those things coming together? Perhaps a slightly unfair question, but nonetheless, your perspective would be welcome.
Sharing a little bit of my personal perspective, and I think, the events like this today, I think that's a perfect platform to bring those, ideas, examples, practices, conversations. So I think it's, and it's not going to end with, closing in a few minutes, but actually, it's a platform to continue to evolve. I mean, I for sure know that, have sparked quite a few conversations and ideas and topics to follow up after the whole event. So thanks very much for the invitation. So I mean, it's there is no like one silver bullet, So I think that this systemic thinking is definitely something that we need to kind of change. And that we need to kind of aspire to. And then, of course, I mean, it's, I think that, there is a lot of expertise and successful pilots or successful scale-ups that can be really kind of expanded. So I think that we need to be, even more vocal in terms of promoting the good practice. I mean, to be honest, I didn't know about, for example, PepsiCo, approach, and it was really kind of, inspiring for me to hear about this. And some examples that I brought on the table, they are like pockets of expertise hidden somewhere, across the markets. I think that, we need to really be even more, I would say, as I said, the vocal, persistent in terms of, sharing, but also embracing those practices. Because, one thing that I always find very inspiring when coming to Poland, actually Poland is one of the most digitally, I would say, active market in the European Union. In Poland, there is more than 300,000 developers. There is an amazing educational system, for the technology. So if you're looking for, a technology partner who can help accelerate, implement, adopt some of those technologies to help, in agri-industry, you don't have to go outside of the Poland. That knowledge and that capability is here in Poland. We just need to connect the dots. I mean, if I can be that bridge for some of your ideas, feel free to reach out, LinkedIn, phone, everything, So I'm really happy to kind of also be that bridge as well.
Great, thank you, Petra. Eva, same question to you.
Perfect. I look forward to discussing after the panel. Now, for me, the landscapes is a answer for sure as well. And I really believe that if we make them right, we will have such a great example, how companies and other stakeholders can work on the landscape level, how we can engage, local authorities and those who are important players but sometimes are not even engaged. Also, we will have a lot of data, and since we are building, the network of landscapes in different parts of Europe, we'll be able to compare different things in, let's say, comparable way. We'll collect this data. We'll have some standards as well. So I hope that this really will help, as well to tell nice stories and to show how we can do this together and how we can bring to the table companies that have sometimes different, MRVs, different approach, different standards. They want to measure something else. Let's see if we manage, to compromise on things to work towards this together. And I also think I agree as well that we have a lot of solutions already. We have great startups with amazing really innovations. What we need as well, those innovations, they need to be more affordable and accessible. And they need to be as well simple when we talk about digitalization as well and so on. They need to be easy to be used. There is a lot of on the market, so those things need to be either somehow like synchronized, or, it's very difficult to approach now farmer of, I don't know, different solutions for 100,000 different things that you can measure on the farm. It needs to be easy. Yes, and affordable for sure, because this is what we heard as well from the feedback from the previous project. We've been working as well with partners in different countries. They said as well, okay, there are solutions, but smaller farmers, for example, they are too expensive for them. Or some solutions are still not accessible in a way that they could make a change. So let's see how we manage to do this. For this, again, we need the finance sector and corporates as well to be on board.
So technology as a bridge, landscapes going from pilots to landscapes. Krzysztof, your view?
Yeah, fully agree with Eva and Petra, but from our perspective, our impact on Polish agriculture is only 6,000 hectares. The question is how to reach to other growers, small farms. Common platform, that's a great idea. But also we have to think how to reach to the growers that are not connected on a daily basis to the internet. It has to be done in a different way if it's not being supported by regional agricultural offices. We need to do something else to reach them in a different way, because this is something what needs to be done.
Right. Mateusz, final word to you.
Thank you. For me, the path is very simple in terms of the formula, but it just takes us to do it, which is build bridges with the other, not with like-minded, not with the same sector. That is important, we do that, but with the other, especially those who disagree with you or have a different opinion, and continue engaging in that relationship with a yes approach. Like, yeah, I know we disagree, but what can we do together to take it forward rather than to drop out of that relationship? And for me, it starts with visiting a farmer. I mean, it's kind of an obvious ask in this room, but maybe somebody in this room hasn't been to a farm in the last year, for example, right? And it would be nice to not have that situation, because otherwise, we have a tendency of there's a growing risk of terrorists being theoretical about things. And things are really simple. We can do it.
Super. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that almost brings us to an end. I've got a couple of thank yous beyond this panel to share with you before we close, but we will close this panel. I hesitate, it would probably be unfair to say that we kept the best until last, but this was an extremely rich panel full of great insights and perspectives, deep experience. Ladies and gentlemen, please do give them a warm round of applause. Thank you. Well, that does just about bring us to the end of this regional conference in Poland. It seems hard to imagine it's only 4 or 5 hours ago since we started. It's impossible to sum it up. I think we got off to a great start with the Director General sharing his perspectives from the government and what that means for the presidency. We had as all things should. We talked about facts and figures with Tassos and the panel session there. We've talked about the centrality of soil, and then we've talked about innovation, not just from the technological, but the social and indeed the economic perspective. It's been a terrific day, certainly for me, an absolute privilege to moderate all of these folks. I do want to thank the translators at the back that have kept us honest. I know my own English is certainly worse than my Polish. It's often worse than the other English from on the panel, but they did a great job in interpreting a lot of what I said, so I'm grateful to them. Thank you to the technical team for making it work and keeping us on track. To Emma and Grzegorz from the Polish Agriculture Federation for helping us to organize this. It was terrific, great job. Thank you as always, Emma, Jehan, Balaron, all involved. Couldn't have happened without you. And mostly, and perhaps most indeed importantly, thank you to you for your participation, your interest, and indeed your questions. It's been a great pleasure to have you here. I hope it won't be another 10 years before we're back in Poland. But for now, that's all, folks.